guys, so I guess there was some interest in me doing a tutorial with the Modern Renaissance palette. I did the warm smoky eye yesterday, and I used pretty much every single color in here, I think except for Venetian red. It's really quite a big mix of everything, just a lot of layers. So hopefully I can remember everything that I did and show you guys what to do. I mostly used a fluffy brush, and I am really low on brushes. I don't have that many. It's really quite pathetic. This is the one that I used for the most part yesterday. It's a Sephora blending crease brush, so it's a little bit fluffy, kind of stiff, but anything you have that's similar should work just fine. And this eye makeup should work for any eye shape or hooded eyes or not hooded eyes. I have extremely hooded eyes. One of them is actually worse than the other one. I don't know if you can tell, but this one's like very squishy. So the first thing I'm going to do is prep my eyes with the Too Faced Shadow Insurance. That's my favorite. I don't ever get any kind of creasing or anything like that. And you just put that all over the lid. I prefer to use my fingers, but you could use a brush as well. And just make sure it's really even and smooth. And I'm using a fair amount. You'll have to ignore my horrible nails. I haven't painted them in a while. So I'm gonna let that dry for a couple of seconds. And then I'm gonna go in with this brush. This is what I always use to prep my eyes, with tempera, to just give you a nice clean base to work from. And you can't really apply too much when you're doing this first layer. In fact, the more the better. It's going to make the more pigmented eyeshadows not stick to your skin. Like if you put the pigmented eyeshadow on and put it right on your lid, it's not just going to stick there and make it so that you can't blend it out and move it around. So this stuff is definitely a must with this palette. The first shade I believe I started with was Golden Ochre right here, and I'm using this fluffy brush that I talked about a moment ago. And my brushes aren't super soft, so I don't know if you can see, but you can see where like the bristles of the brush kind of push in. So you try to be as gentle as you can and just really, you don't even have to push your brush in there, just dip it really gently just to get a really small amount on your brush. And then you want to like tap it. You could use your finger, your table, whatever, to get the excess off. And I'm just going to start by putting this in the crease. This is going to be our first transition color, and there's about 5 transition colors, so. And it's going to start out really, really light, and you're just going to want to build the color really, really slowly. And I'm bringing it all the way from the outside of my crease to all the way on the inside of my crease. And you don't want to put it on the inside of your nose, but you know, you can move all the way through your eye. And I'm actually going to use the mirror on my palette because my lighting in here is really strange. You're going to want to bring it all the way up, almost to your eyebrow line. And like I mentioned earlier, this look is really just blending really small amounts of the pigment together to create even different colors that it actually shows on the palette itself. So I next went in with raw sienna, and I did the exact same thing, just dipping your brush in, tapping off the excess, and going on the same exact area. See, it starts to darken up a little bit, but you can still see the kind of yellow mustardy tone of the golden ochre. So I just have to warn you, this might not turn out exactly the same as what I did yesterday, because like I said, I used every single color and I didn't write it down exactly what I did. So we'll see how this goes. And I'm just going to do the one eye because it's going to take way too long to do both of them. So I'm just going to finish blending this out, bringing it further in, because you really want to smoke it out as much as you can. And the next one I went with was burnt orange. Same thing, just dip it, tap it, and go to town in your crease. And you just want to apply these like really gently. You don't want to push the brush against your skin too hard. The lighter the better, and you don't want to put on a ton because then you can't undo that and you're going to end up having to wipe it off and start over again. So less is more. Start with less, and then you can always build it up if you feel like it's not as intense as you want it to be. Okay, the next color that I used, I believe, was Realgar, and this is a gorgeous color. You can see it here. It's super orangey, but don't be afraid of it. It should work for every skin tone, just don't use a ton on your brush. Just dip it in a tiny bit. You barely will even notice that you've touched the pan. And again, you put that right into the crease to just really warm it up and give it that kind of autumny feel. And that just immediately warms everything, creates a beautiful effect. I don't know how well you can really see it in this video. As I said, my lighting is like really strange in here. And next, I believe, what did I do next? Buon Fresco, I believe, because now we have this really warm, beautiful blended look, but I want to add more depth, a little bit deeper into the crease. So Buon Fresco is going to add like a little bit more of a grayish tone, like more of a shadow effect. So I'm going to put that more directly, like right into the crease. And you don't have to worry too much about getting it on the actual lid, because we're going to be covering your lid with some deeper colors later. So if you get some fallout there, you shouldn't if you're tapping your brush. But if that does happen, you don't need to be concerned about it. And then you can start kind of moving the shadow in on the outside of your lid, because we're going to darken this half of your lid a little bit later too, so it's good to start building the color there now so that it's nice and blended later. And I'm doing this on my phone, and I only have about half the battery, so hopefully it doesn't die on me. If it does, then I will try to finish the video later. I'm going to add a little more of this into the inner crease right here. And really, I just can't stress enough how little you really need to put the brush onto this palette, because it is so pigmented and they blend really beautifully together. So just really light strokes, light touches all around, and you shouldn't have too much of a problem. So what I did next, I believe, was taking Cyprus Umber. And I did change my brush. I've been using this fluffy brush the entire time, but I changed to something a little bit smaller, and this is actually the brush that comes with the palette. It's another little fluffy brush, a little stiff but pretty soft, and I'm going to dip that into Cyprus Umber tiny bit, and I'm going to put that right on the lid line. See how dark that is? And I only barely touched it. And I'm just going to stick that right there and just do tiny little circle movements like that. I'm going to use my other mirror. Now, if you want to, you can kind of move this up into your crease a tiny bit to give yourself a darker or a more deeper look. I'm only going to do that on the outside of the crease, but if you're like going out at night, you can always bring it over a little bit further to create more darkness, if that's something that you like. And see how, you know, it's not quite blended right here. You're just going to stay right there and make these little circle motions over and over and over. And just try not to add more product, because, you know, you don't want to mess yourself up and get frustrated. Okay. So now we have this whole blank space right here, and I'm going to turn this brush around to this little flat brush to use on my lid, and I'm going to take red ochre, and it goes onto the brush like so easily, barely touching, and I'm going to put that all over this blank part on my lid. I'm not going to go onto the brown, just fill in this blank space. And you don't really need to use a ton of it. And don't worry about trying to get it too perfectly coated, because we're going to put a bunch of shadows over this. Okay. And just make sure it goes all the way into your inner corner, and you've filled in any gaps that you have, and that's it. And next we're gonna take Love Letter and do the exact same thing right on top of that red. This is a really gorgeous pink color. I used to always shy away from super pigmented and super colorful eyeshadow. I usually do kind of neutral everything, but this palette has really taken me out of my comfort zone. So those two colors together are creating kind of a, like a plum color, a reddish plum color. And you can kind of blend it in gently with your crease. You don't want to bring it up too far, you want to leave it on the lid, but you can blend it in a little bit right there. And if you prefer a more red look, you can add more of that red ochre. If you prefer more pink, add more Love Letter. It's a really kind of versatile look. I'm just blending all of these colors together, so you can do any kind of variation of this that you want to. Okay, so I think I'm going to switch brushes, and I'm going to go for no, you know what? I'm just going to keep this one. Why not? And I'm going to go in with Antique Bronze, and it's this one right here. Really pretty, kind of plummy color. It has like a bit of sparkle to it. And I'm going to put that right on top of this red and pink zone that I've just been working on. And you're just going to pat it on. This is the one step where I wouldn't tap your brush, but you don't need to dig your brush into the palette. I like gentle strokes like that, and then you're just going to pat it on so that you're not going to get that fallout, especially if you've already done your face. And I really packed quite a lot of this particular shade into this area. And now I'm not sure how well you can see, but see how that's not very blended right there? That's okay right now. You don't have to worry about that too much. Now that I have that color on there, I'm gonna go back in with this fluffy brush, and I'm going to take Buon Fresco again, and I'm going to blend that all into my crease right there. Now, since that's such a light color and we're putting it on top of our darker shadows, if you want to, you can go back in and kind of touch up the darker shades to make sure that they still have that depth that you want. You can go back in with this Cyprus Umber and darken your corner a little bit more. It's really up to what you feel works for your face or what kind of look you're going for. I am going to darken mine up a little bit. And this time I'm doing it, I seem to have a little bit less of the orange smokiness around here, but because we've layered so many of these colors, it's easy to kind of go back in and reblend and kind of correct and add to what you've done if you decide you want to change it up a little bit. So I'm going to take my fluffy brush and I'm going to wipe it off on a tissue, just gently kind of swirling it like this to get the product off. And I'm going to go back in with Burnt Orange. I find that's my favorite transition color in this palette. It's just beautiful. You can't go wrong with it. And I'm going to go back up to this crease and just really, really gently throw a little bit more of that color and blend it in a little bit more. Okay, that works for me. It's not exactly the same as it was yesterday, but you know, it's pretty close. And like I said, just play around with it, play around with the order of the colors that you're blending, and you can come out with some really beautiful different looks. So the next thing I did was I applied eyeliner, and hopefully I can do that on camera. I've never tried to do this before, so hopefully I don't mess it up. And I'm using the Kat Von D Tattoo Liner pen. And this step, you really, really want to take your time. Try not to stress yourself out about it. I know this is like the inside joke of all women trying to do makeup. You end up with the panda eye. Just try to relax, take a break if you need to, like have some tea and chill out, and then just slowly take your time. Make sure your hands aren't shaking. And I'm going to stay really tight to the lash line at first. So that's a tight line right there. I just kept the pen right on top of my eyelashes. And then one great tip with your winged eyeliner, wherever your brow is pointing, you kind of want the end of your wing to point as though they were going to meet together. So I wouldn't want my eyeliner to come way out here. I wouldn't want it to go straight up like that. I'd want to meet it like at that angle. So I'm going to draw it from the corner of my eye. See how they would meet right there? I'm going to try to use my phone camera to do this here so it's a little closer. It's really difficult. Maybe not. Now I have hooded eyes, so I have like a very specific way that I can do the winged eyeliner so that it doesn't look awkward. Because sometimes when you try to do the winged eyeliner, that big line of squishiness comes down and kind of messes with your look. So I can always do a separate video if anyone's interested in that. So I'm just going to fill this in right now. Brought that out a little bit further than I did yesterday. Okay, so now I'm going to do my lower lash line. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I really don't have a ton of brushes. I'm really lacking in that department. So I kind of improvise a lot of the time, and what did I use? I used this angled brow brush to do my lower lash line, in addition to, I think I used this big fluffy brush. You're probably going to want to use something smaller than that. So let's see, what the heck did I do? I used this angled brow brush. You can use whatever you're comfortable with this Cyprus Umber, and I was actually pretty pleased with how this worked. I got in with this angled brush and just brought it right up to the lash line right there and just pressed it in like that, and it left kind of like a really clean line, so I might actually continue using this in the future. And I'm going to bring it right up to my winged eyeliner to kind of blend that all in together, and right all the way into the corner there. I want this nice and dark because then we're going to blend it out with, you can use any of your transition colors, whatever you want, golden ochre, burnt orange, the raw sienna. I'll probably use the golden ochre just to see how that turns out, because this top lid is a little bit less orangey than it used to be. There's definitely a little bit of it, but not quite as dramatic as it was when I did the look yesterday. So, you know, I'm not actually going to use this. I just wing it all the time with my brushes and have figured out techniques that work for me. But I definitely would recommend purchasing some brushes, even if they're just from Sephora or, what else do I have? These Eco Tools brushes. Or Real Techniques are great brushes too. Yeah, I'm going to use the golden ochre and smoke that out. I'm going to go right over the top of Cyprus Umber, but you know, really softly, because we don't want to wipe that shadow away. We want to blend it in and smoke it out. And I think I'm going to throw some burnt orange in there, just a little bit of that too. Yeah. Now, after I've smoked that out, I'm going to go back with my angled brush and I'm going to apply some more Cyprus Umber to that lower lash line because I really liked how that dark dramatic line looked, and now that we've smoked it out, it's going to look a lot more natural and blended. Okay, so at this point, if you have any, you know, like fallout, like red fallout I always get in the corner of this eye, so I'm going to kind of wipe that away with just my finger. You could use a Q-tip, that'd probably be a better idea, but I don't have any. And where is the brush I'm looking for? I'm a mess and totally unprepared for this. I'm going to use this little brush and I'm going to grab the Vermeer shade, really pretty highlight shade. So I'm going to take some of that and put it right in the inner corner of my eye as a highlight. And I like to actually bring it out pretty far because I have really deep set eyes, like really deep, and the hoodedness and everything, so I like to bring it out even from the inner corner all the way to here, because I find it really brightens them and takes them kind of out of that dark look. Oh right, I'm only doing the one eye, habits. Just make sure it's blended in the corner. You could even bring it down a little bit if you want to. It's totally up to what you want to do. And so that is the finished look once I put mascara on. You can always go back in and add more colors, do more blending. Like I said, this look is, you know, pretty simple. Just don't put a lot of shadow on your brush and you really can't go wrong. And just practice with blending if you're a beginner. That's something that took me ages because it requires a little bit of patience. And I don't have any lashes, unfortunately, to put on here. I just ordered my first bunch of lashes from House of Lashes, but they haven't gotten here yet, but I'm really excited about them. So here's the pre-makeup eye, and here's the finished look. And yesterday I used, gosh, just look on my post because I can't remember the lipstick that I used. But I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and that it was helpful for you. And if you guys are interested, and I can always do the winged eyeliner one for hooded eyes like I was mentioning earlier. So everyone have a great day and ignore my weird Frankenstein half makeup, half not look. Thanks guys, and have a good one.